Mm. Annyeonghaseyo. Yes, that's as far as the Korean I'm going to speak today. And the reason being, today we're talking about democracies, and Korea happens to be one. And we just randomly picked it. I don't know why we picked it, but right. So we have the reason we picked democracy is because me and my friend Chintan, say hi.
Hi, what's up?
Hey, we both live in a democracy and we're fascinated by the process, election, so many democracies around the world, and it happens to be a topic not many people speak about in the internet.
Yeah,
So, continuing with our podcast series, I think we can call it a podcast. Yeah, we'll start with democracies. Go on, Chintan. What do you
yeah.
have?
So South Korea, I think we mainly chose because South Korea is pretty fascinating. It was one of the fastest growing countries, like within the last 40 or 50 years or whatever.
It is. It
And
is,
yeah,
and it's Asian.
yeah, I guess.
I mean, we come from India. I don't know. I guess the Asian pride, if that's a thing.
Right,
Anyways,
right.
yeah,
Yeah, and South Korea is pretty fascinating. It's pretty advanced
it
as well. One
is.
of the most advanced countries in Asia. So
It is. It's pretty awesome.
yeah.
Right. So, what do you have first today?
So I think first thing, like since we were super interested in democracy,
Yeah.
we were going through some topics related to democracy, and I thought this was a very interesting topic in democracy. It's called Democracy Index. So basically,
Uh-huh.
like generally, it's just ranking of how good a democracy is of that country. It has these four categories, which are full democracies, flawed democracies, hybrid regimes, and authoritarian regimes.
Okay.
So in this map, as you can see, um, India is kind of, it's a flawed democracy, but it's not too
Hmm.
bad, I guess, for a country
Oh,
of 1.3, 1.4
right.
billion.
Why are you talking about India, Chintan?
No, I wanted to show from where we are from, and then I want to show US, and
I'm
then go to
I'm
South
not
Korea.
from India. I'm from America. Screw you.
Right, I guess then US, America. US is
Right.
also flawed, but
Right.
the
Right.
color is a little, darker. It
Yeah.
belongs to a higher.
I know. That was. I don't know if it was for you, but it was surprising to me that we're not that far off from America. We're doing pretty well.
I mean,
But
I'm,
I guess
I'm not that surprised, I guess, because we have like
America.
these
Perfect.
huge election with so many people voting. Although there
Yeah.
is a lot of corruption in it,
Yeah.
everything, but still, like
Yeah.
it is a very complicated and like
Yeah.
this process, I
Our
guess. So
elections and democracy seem to be fair, right?
yeah,
Irrespective of all the garbage and shit that goes on,
yeah, for sure.
at least the election process seems fair.
For
Yeah.
sure. Like it might be not be like completely fair, but like there seems to
Yeah,
be.
of course not. Of course not.
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
course not.
But like having like so many people and everything, it seems like it's accountable is what we could
Yeah.
call it, I guess.
I think another way, what I'm trying to say is that it still seems that the democracy seems to represent the people at least to some extent, if not completely. To a large extent, the governments represent the will of the people. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
authoritarian.
For sure,
There
for sure,
wasn't much.
for sure, for sure.
I don't know if you noticed. Speaking of India, Jammu and Kashmir, the map doesn't. It's very controversial. In India, no, in that map you were still showing.
Yeah, yeah. Like that's there. Like if you go to other countries, it's exactly like this. It's only in India that we show like the top part of it. Otherwise, it's either dotted
No,
or it's like
yeah,
this.
it's a no. It's a different shade. Disputed
Right,
territory
right.
types.
Yeah, yeah.
This is like
Some places they show a little bit of the Chinese part as well. Like in India, we have
right,
this part
right,
where it belongs to
right.
China as well. So yeah, it's
Damn.
pretty controversial, I guess.
Right, right. For our international viewers, this is actually a very, it's straight to the heart of every Indian. We're very patriotic about it. But, anyways,
Yeah, like
it's fine.
if in India, if like most people
Uh,
wouldn't agree with this map, is what you're trying
yeah,
to say, I guess.
most people will think a Pakistani made this map. But,
Yeah, exactly.
and no, I'm just kidding. We don't know. But
Yeah,
go on, go
yeah.
on.
So like the today's country of discussion, South Korea, which is right here,
Right.
is
Oh, where is that?
it's pretty
Oh,
green.
right. No
It's
worries.
decently green, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
It's again like belongs to flawed, but a higher part of flawed,
Right.
and it is right below North Korea, which is completely red, which because it's completely authoritarian.
Right.
Yeah,
What
so
you
South,
talked about, they have elections in North Korea, but we'll get to that later.
yeah,
Go on.
later, next,
Did you
another
know
day.
that? Did you know that?
No, I mean, kind of,
Yeah.
I guess, but it's all
Yeah.
like
Decided.
it's what
Predetermined.
they tell people, but it's not
Mm.
really conducted, I think.
Right. Right. Right.
But
Come on.
in the
We'll talk
list,
about actually
yeah,
this
this is
video.
like
Okay.
the list of of the democracy index, and here South Korea belongs at number 23. So it's pretty much at the top of flawed democracy. It's almost full democracy. So I would say that's pretty good. Like the system must be pretty decent, and
It's awesome.
yeah, it
It's awesome.
is. Yeah,
And,
exactly. So
and like Asian country, I don't know. I think it's the topmost Asian country. No, it's Japan's there.
uh, Japan might
Japan.
Japan is
Japan's
24th. It's right
24.
next to it, below it. So it
There
is, I
you
guess.
go. Oh, it's below it.
Yeah,
Never mind.
yeah. So it is
So
the
it's
top
the
top Asian
that's
country.
crazy. I just realized this.
Oh
I mean,
no,
I saw this list several times.
this. Oh yeah, Asian country. Yeah, it is. Australia is not Asian. So
I, we just noticed that, right?
yep,
We saw
yep,
the list there.
exactly,
Crazy,
exactly.
crazy.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah. So
So
it's
it
so it's pretty
definitely more,
surprising that there are South American countries which are
more democratic than in that
yeah,
South Korea.
yeah. I guess so. I mean, like as we were talking earlier, like how
Yeah,
Uruguay
yeah,
and Costa
right.
Rica and Chile is
That
like
are full democracies, actually. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I know. Because given like their drug problems and all, I mean, the it's probably stereotypical and a little racist. I don't know, but they probably have a lot of drug problems, and the cartels and all that. We
Yeah.
think the whole South Korea is infected by that,
Right.
and then there's like, I mean, the most BRICS. Brazil is often compared with India. I know. I'm sure you know about BRICS, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I do.
So, so they have a lot of corruption issues. So I just assumed it's
Yeah.
pretty bad.
See this. India and Brazil are pretty much
There you
linked.
go. There you go. There you go.
Right
There
below
you go.
India. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean
Right.
that's what like same I thought would apply to like other South American countries, but I guess we don't know much about them at all
Yeah.
because
We don't.
since they
We barely know.
yeah
We will. I mean, that's the intention of the series. So
exactly
we and our viewers hopefully will know a lot more by the end of the series. But we'll see.
exactly yeah so yeah I guess 23rd is a pretty high number and
It's
um,
awesome.
yeah it is a
Mm.
really good number. Like
So
even though I've
let's
read on Reddit on comments and everything that people don't entirely trust the government and that there is a lot of corruption, but that's part and parcel of like almost every country, I guess.
Yeah, and
There
that's
is
a sign of
corruption.
a healthy democracy
Yeah.
that you can have such suspicion against the government. Because in contrast, if you look at North Korea, they trust their government, right?
No, but the thing is like there have been like I think some really evident controversial stuff
Sure,
where
sure,
people found
right.
that there
Yeah,
was corruption and everything and there was like a lot of protests and everything. I think 5 months back or something there was
right,
proper
right.
protests like
But
against
here's the thing. It's for me. It's not about so about corruption because like even like America, if you see the most powerful, I guess accurately described as a flawed democracy. There's definitely corruption, obvious corruption, whether it
yeah
comes into their warmongering nature or whatever it is, and their candidates, and the rape accusations and all that.
yeah
So I feel like, especially when your population goes over 100 million or so, millions of people, not even 100. In case of South Korea, is this 50 million? You're talking about. Inevitably it's going to be a corrupt system,
yeah
but the ability to keep correcting it and checking it is what a democracy is. Because I think any country over, if you go upwards, full democracies, most of them I'd guess are below 50 million population, right?
Germany is like 80 million, UK is like
Oh,
60 million.
okay, okay. Let's
uh,
let's hide those numbers. Okay, we'll get there sometime. Let's
Yeah,
see.
these are all like these are the Scandinavian countries. Like this is
Right.
crazy. Like Norway, Iceland, Sweden, Finland, all four, Denmark, all five
Canada,
Scandinavian countries in the top
yeah.
seven. That's insane. I mean they're
And
all small
what's
countries
your population
again,
like?
but still.
What's your population like?
Like I think Denmark is just like some 6 million or something. Norway, Iceland would be a little higher, I guess.
Right. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, it's just six
I
million.
below
It's
20.
crazy.
Oh, six. That's nothing. Check all of them if you can. Sweden population.
Sweden population 10 million. Yeah,
There,
it's all
there you go.
probably like Denmark is
Right.
also like very low. I know, like it's like
It's it's
6.
it's kind of. I mean, it doesn't excuse our corruption, and I mean, it
Yeah, for
doesn't
sure.
excuse our ethical non. unethical behavior, but this is a huge factor. To some extent, it does excuse it, I feel, because the varied opinion and the monolingual nature of these countries, right? I'm sure 90% of them speak, or maybe even 100% speak the same language,
Yeah,
right? And it's crazy. The more people you have, the language, like even America.
yeah.
I'm not going to compare it to India because there'll be too much praising and I'll get all patriotic about it. But even in America, they have a diversity in people speaking languages,
For
right?
sure, for sure.
So,
I guess
so
that
that makes it
way,
difficult.
considering your points that you just mentioned, Canada is impressive. It's like 37 million with,
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
mainly English, but
Yeah,
it has like French
yeah.
and
No,
Punjabi.
so
So,
they have a lot of immigrants and all
yeah.
that. Sure,
I
sure,
guess Germany
sure.
that way has a high population, even though this thing, language is just small.
Monolingual, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
single language, right?
yeah. UK as well.
But I'd say 90% of full democracies are below, would you say below 40 million? Is it? I don't know. What's the number? What's the highest there? 80 million is Germany, right?
Yeah,
So,
this is like 37 million. Canada is 37 million. Switzerland is pretty low. Netherlands is low.
Uruguay. Maybe if you scroll over, it shows. Go
No,
Uruguay?
no, no. I don't think so.
No. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we can
Fine,
check
anyways.
Uruguay actually. Uruguay, I'm
Oh,
not sure. I have no
oh.
idea Uruguay's population.
It's a big land. I know they're big land. And
I mean, Uruguay isn't that big. Oh shit, that's crazy. That's just 4 million, dude. That's super low.
Chintan, yeah. So I live in Bangalore and our population, what, it's half that population. No, double our population.
Yeah.
But still.
No,
No, wait.
half.
What am I
Half the
saying?
population.
It's less than
Less than
half.
half.
Ours is like,
Pretty much
how
one
much is
third.
it? 120 million, right? In
It's no,
Bangalore?
12
No,
million, not 120.
12 million. Sorry.
It's
Yeah.
12 million. This is
That's crazy.
3.4 million. So pretty
There
much
you
one third.
I thought it's big. I thought it's a big country. Anyways, but
No,
so there you
Uruguay
go.
is pretty small, no?
Um,
Like,
yeah.
Uruguay is, I think.
So, like that's why is Singapore there in the top 20? Must be
No,
there, right? Full
Singapore is
democracy.
very corrupt. It's like 70th or something. I was pretty surprised by that actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh
Where is Singapore?
no, it's
75th. That's insane. Yeah. I mean, I was very surprised by this. Maybe the like we have no. I
so
have no
that's
idea. Like there seems to be a lot of
democracy.
corruption. I guess it's the
It's
bottom of
almost
the
not.
flawed
Yeah,
democracy.
yeah. It's almost not a democracy.
Yeah, I know. That's what.
That's insane. That's insane. I'm
No, no.
surprised. We'll let you look it up. Anyways, we'll learn. We learn something today
Yeah,
as well. That's okay. Fine. So let's pick one, Chintan. Pick a country to talk about today.
we
Randomly pick one.
we mentioned
Entirely
it quite a
randomly
bit for
pick one.
now. So I guess we.
Right, it's too late for that. Okay, I planned a whole joke for this bit, but okay,
I mean, go
whatever.
ahead. Sorry.
No. Yeah, it's
We are
over.
picking South Korea.
Stop asking me, Chintan. Let's just go. South Korea. Go for it. Right. Right. So, like we said, it's an Asian country. We have a thing for Asia. I don't know about Chintan, but whenever there's a World Cup, I'm supporting an Asian country because India is not even qualifying for the World Cup. But so South Korea is one of the teams I'm always cheering for. Shit, it's something we should have talked about. I didn't bring football today, but they have a really good football team, arguably the best in Asia.
Japan, I thought.
Japan's pretty good, but South Korea got third once, right? In the
Oh, I
South
don't.
Korea, I don't remember. In the South Korean World Cup in 2002, I think. I think it was the first World Cup I saw
In
when I
the
was
South
born.
Korean World Cup. Oh, like
Yeah,
it took place over there. Is it? I don't know. Okay.
I don't know if it was Japan, South Korea. They did it in collaboration with another country. I can't remember which. Maybe Japan. But they got third there, or fourth. I know they played for third and fourth. So
Okay.
I don't remember Japan ever doing that. But yeah, Japan is again a good competitor. But right. So, sticking to the theme of democracies, I thought we should first get into a little bit of how South Korean politics works. Now, I was going through YouTube videos and not YouTube videos, looking for YouTube videos. I couldn't find any extensive description of their current system. So I had to rely primarily on Wikipedia for getting all my information. And right, what did I come across? It's so complex because their democracy. Maybe I should go with a little bit of background history. And it started. So they were, I think, occupied by Japan. I won't get too much into World War II. Maybe that's something Chintan knows a lot more better than. Correct me if you know anything I'm saying wrong, Chintan.
I mean, I don't know
Because
much about Korean influence, South Korean influence in it, but okay, I guess.
okay, yeah, sure, that's okay. It's not the Korean influence. I'm talking the Japanese influence. The
Right, right,
Japanese were taking over Korea.
right. Yeah, yeah. I don't.
And,
Yeah, that also. I don't know
right.
much about.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. So they took over South Korea, and I mean, I think the Japanese were also what do you call them, imperialists, and they were taking over countries and stuff. So the independence that's what Koreans got are from Japan, and Russia had to help them do it. But towards the end of the World War II, from my understanding, the South Korea, Russia declared war on Japan. So Russia had taken over the northern parts of South Korea, and the southern part was taken over by America because they too were against the Japanese. I think at that moment their interests aligned, and they were both against Japanese takeover, and they were worried about Russian influence in South Korea as well because Korea was already an important base for America. I
Right.
guess their reach to Japan perhaps at that time
Right.
and
Communism,
Eastern.
like everything, like whoever, like whenever US was worried about USSR, not just US, like the other rest of the world as well. I guess it was mainly because
Yeah,
of communism. Like they didn't want spread communism to spread from
right. But
USSR.
yeah, that was like one aspect of it. I think there was also against the fascists. So everyone was against Germany, and not everyone. I'd say like Russia, the communists as well as the democratic free marketeers, if you want to call them, were against uh, Germany and Japan, and I don't know another country. That alliance, what
Italy,
was it?
Italy.
Yeah, Italy was it, right? So I guess these fascist regimes, I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but there was another fight simultaneously between the communists. I think that's what you're referring to. So that is what caused the split of Korea to North Korea and South Korea, where the Russians control USSR controlled by Stalin, controlled North Korea, and South Korea was by Americans.
Right.
Now they actually shaped, and they were the beginning of perpetual splits in the country of Korea. It's quite sad actually when I think about it, because maybe if it weren't for these two,
Okay.
Korea would be one country. It's hard to say if they would overthrow Japan or Japan would be controlling them, but I'd like to think, I don't know, I'd like to think it was possible. But
Right.
unfortunately or fortunately, what happened is so both of them eventually wanted Korea to be one. USSR, I think Stalin was ruling then, and South Korea was I can't, some American president, whoever it was. Maybe Reagan, I don't know. But they both wanted to hold a common election, and multiple attempts were made, but both of them couldn't come to an agreement because they were worried whoever took over the election system, and in conducting the elections, one would use that power to dominate the other half. And as a result, UN intervened and they tried to conduct elections, but neither the USSR or American government trusted each other, so they just couldn't come to an agreement of how to go about conducting the elections.
This was all part of Cold War, I guess, like this and Vietnam and everything, I guess. Like
Was it? Okay, okay. Like I
I'm
said,
guessing, like
it
I don't
makes
know.
sense. It makes sense. Again, like you said, it had to do with hate towards communism and the authoritarian nature of communism. So yeah, eventually that's what happened. South Korea, they had another elections. UN conducted the elections, the first elections, without the participation of North Korea. And actually, North Korea had an election, and they had a leader, and they were trying to unify. And each were claiming that their results were the authentic results of the whole nation, and everyone should adopt it. And there was a war, a civil war of sorts, and that's what decided the borders of each country, because there was a ceasefire decided at a particular point, a particular line between the two countries, and yeah, South Korea is what it is today. So, so North Korea went there where they became a somewhat communist state, now authoritarian. I don't know. I guess you could call it still a communist state, but they believed in the ideals of Stalin uh, and yeah, South Korea decided to go the democratic road. Now, I just gave you this background because after the independence, right? I think it's August 15th, shares it with India. I don't know if you knew that, Chintan, but
Oh, I had no idea.
yeah, August 15th, they shared with India 2 years ago. In fact, for one of our Independence Day, current Prime Minister invited South Korean president
Oh,
for chief guest. This happened a few years ago. Sorry, that was like 4 years, 5 years ago. I don't know if it was. In fact, it was before Modi, I think, because I attended that. I attended that Republic Day, Independence Day parade in what was it in Delhi.
what? When
So
was this?
yeah, this is I don't know, years ago. I told my dad got a national award, but anyways, let's not get into it. Another time, discussion for another time. So, what was I? Right. Um, Maybe I have a few links to show. Right. So the Korean democracy and election rules and the assembly structure and government structure constantly kept changing every freaking election. They
Okay.
have the first republic, second republic. They all, I think, currently it's the sixth or seventh republic, and the number of seats and how the election happens and all that kept changing across the years. And to go into depth of the process of change and how it changed would take several hours. It could take years to describe, and we might make another concise video on it. But for now, I'll tell you how the current system works. So, like most democracies, they have three pillars. They have the judiciary, the legislature, and the what's the other one? Executive. And they have three kinds of elections. There's the presidential election and the National Assembly election. Assembly election has 300 seats. They have only one house, unlike many houses around the world, many parliaments around the world, houses around the world. Most houses are one. No, unlike many parliaments around the world, they have two houses, one house, and 300 seats. 90% of the seats or something like 250 seats are elected through what they call plurality, where if you have the most votes, you win the seat and you get a seat in the parliament. 48% of 48 seats or something are called representative. What's it? Well, proportional representation. That's the phrase. Of where, depending on the number of votes you have, you get the number of seats proportionally. I wouldn't get too much into the details. It could become a really long video if I did that. So for now, I'll just leave this link. I don't know if you're showing the Wikipedia link
Yeah,
already.
I'm showing that only.
It's just
Government of South Korea.
oh, okay, fine. Then okay. So I don't need to send you the link. But I think it's a good segue to get into what the current elections are. And believe it or not, guys, we decided to do this video just like I said, the reasons mentioned earlier. It's South Korea, it's Asian democracy. We have some kind of weird, unreasonable Asian pride. And it was pretty modern democracy, and we picked it. But it also coincidentally happens to be the time of elections for them. April 15th, I think, is when the people go to vote.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what you were saying, Chintan, that who's going to win? Do you know anything?
No,
What do you
like
know about?
I was reading some article and it said that the current president, the Moon Jae-in guy, he was still a pretty strong contender. Like his party was still a pretty strong contender, mainly because like I think like around 5 months back they weren't that strong as such because like some kind of corruption scandal and stuff like that. But
Corrections, yeah, this guy, yeah, Moon.
no, I don't entirely know actually. I'm
Right,
not
right.
sure if
I think I looked it up. Even I'm not entirely sure, but it was. I think he was accused. This is years ago.
right.
He was accused of it, and then they acquitted him. I sent you a link. Did you get it?
Yeah, you were using my this thing only, so
So right, right. I had a feeling because I read the same thing here.
you okay.
But I don't know if everyone can view it. You need to log in. It's a New York Times. I don't know if can you read it?
South Korea goes to the polls. Coronavirus
Right.
pandemic or not?
Scroll down slowly because eventually I think we'll not be able to read it. It's not a free website. But either way, for those of you, you just need to log in to read it. If you can create an account, you can read it. I'm sure.
Right. I
So
think I can read it. See, I mean,
yeah, okay. I think eventually it'll go. But fine, yeah, I guess this is enough for now. And yeah, like you said, it's because the way they dealt with the coronavirus,
no, I
right?
can read
And
the
that's
entire thing actually. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
No, I think it's the number of articles you can read. I think before it gets lost. I
maybe.
don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're praising their response to the coronavirus, right?
Yeah, they are like the way they handled it. From this is again from Reddit comments.
Yeah.
This was they are the way they handled it. Like people were saying that the government handled it well, and also the people were already scared. Like they were pretty prepared because of the MERS pandemic, which hit South Korea in 2015 as well. So
Right.
they at that time, I guess they kind of learned their lesson and they. Uh,
They responded
yeah, they
appropriately.
responded.
Not they.
Yeah,
Right.
so
Right.
because of that, like they didn't like put extreme measures like entire country lockdown and everything, but they use a lot of technology to track people down to the
Right.
exact cases of the spread and everything.
Right.
So because of that, they could like I guess like because of like they could mainly control the number of cases of coronavirus.
Right.
And right now South Korea is one of the one of the only countries where the number of recovered is much more than the number of active cases.
Right.
So so yeah, pretty
Am
much
I?
70% of them have fully
Oh,
recovered. So
recovered, right, right. Yeah, I think I read a stat on that. It was around, I think of 10,000 people, only like 2,000, 3,000 are still infected now.
yeah,
I mean, the total number of cases they have. Total number of 10,000 that were affected, now it's down to 2,000, 3,000.
yeah, I guess
And maybe you can show this video. It's pretty, it's exactly what you're talking about. And Wokes, they have their characteristic quality content video.
right.
I mean, I'm not talking about the political opinions, that's
Countries
somewhat
around the
controversial, but
world
when they
have
make a
shifted.
factual, informative video, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And this is describing what you said, actually. They mentioned the MERS virus. And have you seen this one?
No, I haven't seen
Okay,
this.
when you get
Starting
time,
in
you should
late
watch it. And they mentioned the MERS pandemic, epidemic, and how South Korea responded to it, and the learnings they got from that, and how they were able to implement that in the current scenario. And like you said, it's crazy. They were showing worldwide how all the streets, Paris, America, maybe India, I don't know. They show a few countries where the streets are empty, but in South Korea, everyone's out. They're with their masks. They all sing. That's awesome. That's pretty cool, and that's something we all hoped for, but like most of us are mature enough. I mean, when we were on Reddit, we know a lot of comments saying it's good that we're in lockdown. People accept it because we know we're stupid. The Italians knew it. The Italians are stupid. But I guess the South Koreans aren't as stupid as the rest of us, maybe to some extent. But
So yeah, this case is like, even though it might not be entirely government, I mean they did handle it well, because they tested a lot. Like they tracked it down well, and they had a lot of tests, and they had really good testing sites. They had the first drive-through testing sites in the world and
right,
everything. So
and even the production of the test kits, right?
yeah,
I think.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
because like it might not be entirely government, even people's
Initiative,
efforts,
yeah, their
initiatives,
response and their behavior would have
but it has
contributed.
helped the current ruling party. Like it has
Right.
gave, like, I think because of that, they are saying that the current ruling party might win again. That it's
Right.
just some article that I was reading, but
Yeah. I think it's also mentioned in this New York Times one I showed you,
right.
where they mentioned, the credit for this success is going to the government, irrespective of whether they deserve it or not, right? That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
And true. But even then, I think some credit should go, because not all governments around the world are responding appropriately.
Yeah.
Italy took a while. A lot of states in America are abysmally responding to it, and only later are they realizing the actual threat of the virus and the uncertainty we have. Well, we mentioned it in our previous podcast about how these governments are. But what else do we got? So that's interesting. But so right, the parties participating, right? I think the first one is I wonder if you have a page open on that. It's the Democratic Party of Korea. I think that's the one. Moon. What's his name? Moon. Whatever. I shouldn't say that. What's his name? Do we know his name? The president.
His name is Moon Jae-in.
That is Moon Jae-in. Yeah, we're probably mispronouncing it, but Moon is probably correct. And he's the current president, right?
Yeah, he is.
Right. So they have, I don't know if you know, Chintan, but they have a presidential election separately where people directly vote for the president.
Oh, okay.
And this election on April 15th is just for the seats in the National Assembly.
Okay.
Right. So they have like three for the parliament, seats in the parliament. By National Assembly, I
So
mean.
it's not based on like member of parliaments and all, or it's just like votes by people?
Oh, you mean the president, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's where it gets complex. I'm not entirely sure, but they if you have more number of seats, you get a lot more provisions. If you have a lot more rights. If you have more number of votes, you have more number of rights.
Right.
So maybe in another video I can give the exact process. But if I had to guess, based on my half knowledge, my semi-educated guess would be that because they have the majority party, they have the ability to to contest for presidential elections, something like that.
Okay.
If you know what I mean, right? Because it's right. Here's the thing about the proportional representation vote, right? I was talking about the 47 seats of
Yeah.
the 300 seats. So each, if I understood correctly, each voter has to put two votes.
Okay. So
Right.
like
One vote.
first
Yeah.
preference, second preference. That's what you think.
No. That's a different thing we were talking about. It's like the first vote goes to my constituency member, okay, who was standing. Let's say I have a constituency MP here standing. He votes from a particular party, multiple candidates contesting. I vote, the first vote goes, and based on who gets plurality. Do you know the difference between plurality and majority?
Uh, I mean,
It's simple. You probably know it. It's just the words you don't know. Majority is over 50%, obviously.
mhm.
Plurality is how most elections work. So if I get the most number of votes, I win. It doesn't matter if it's majority.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Correct? Okay,
Yeah,
so simple. So I'm just going to use those words. That's why I'm just defining it. So, so all seats will be like that. All constituency in South Korea will have, based on plurality, they will decide the MP.
right.
But the second vote is for that proportional representation. It's not to do with majority either, but it has to do with number of votes. So I have to vote the party, not the member. I give the vote to a party.
Okay,
Now, at the end of the election, my first vote will decide 243 of the seats, correct?
right. Okay,
My based on plurality, each constituency they'll check, count, whichever candidate has the most votes wins. The other 43 seats, they'll see everyone's second votes.
right.
Now everyone's only voting for the party in the second vote. So there, the party, let's say they count all the votes. 23% of the votes went to DPK, Democratic Party of Korea, which Moon is part of. If 23% of votes went to them, they get 23% of those 47 seats.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No.
Okay, so we understood the 253 seats, correct?
Yeah.
Now the other 47 seats, you're only going to consider the second vote.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
In the second vote, each voter voted for a party, not for a member.
Yeah, got it.
So now, at the end of the tally, you'll have a percentage, right? So 23 votes went to DPK, 23, the other 25% went to some other party, 2% went to another party.
Okay.
Correct?
Okay.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And they'll add to 100%, right? Now, if 23% votes of the second vote, the proportional representation, went to DPK, for example, they would get 23% of the 47 seats.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right. United Front would get how much percent of votes they got.
Got it.
Got it. So it's proportionally giving the seats out. It's distributing the seats proportionally, right? So that's the second part of the vote, which is again interesting. So I know it sounds a little complex, right, compared to our voting system. It's so simple. I mean, it's a simple thing, but it takes a while to understand it. And this is the easiest reform they've made. This is the easiest thing to understand, which is why I couldn't describe all their reforms they made in the electoral process over the last 5 decades since the independence. It is so complex, this system, that it's another subject of its own. I mean, each topic gives us a list of series to talk about, and this is another thing. Honestly, elections in South Korea could be at least 100 videos if I had to guess. But so that's part of the election thing, and yeah, DPK and United Future only, I think, and yeah, so this is just for the assembly. And my guess is in the assembly, who has the most seats, or if you cross a certain threshold of votes or seats, you are able to put forth a candidate for your presidential elections. And so that's a presidential.
There's no
sorry?
50%. Like if you have to get 50% thing here, right?
Majority? No, there's no majority. It's. I guess I don't know in any democracy if a majority has ever won election. The exception, in my knowledge, being the Delhi elections, where and our viewers definitely won't know it, but in Delhi local elections, it's the state elections in Delhi. Are one of the candidates, a new candidate, relatively new candidate, won 51% of the votes, I think, and so that's the exception from what I know. And even then, they were talking about how it's a world record, and many parties around the world. No, I mean, maybe any democracy hasn't achieved it. A majority rule. It's just impossible to get such a consensus, such a unanimous consensus. It's not impossible, but it's just so unlikely that a country wouldn't be able to progress. We'll never be able. It'd be so difficult to form a government, especially in a big countries with like 50 million in Korea. So, and yeah, so Oh, sorry, you were asking what? Like majority, right? No, it's proportional thing.
Yeah,
I
here I can
don't.
see that's what the Democratic Party won like 41% or whatever, which is
Yeah,
pretty
there
high,
you
I
go.
guess.
Right. Yeah. So even in America, so in America, the thing is they split it to two-party systems. So that makes it a little. I feel like that's kind of screwed up, and a lot of people are complaining about it. That's just not right.
Yeah,
That's why I feel like I think in maybe all Asian democracies have multi-parties, and it's a lot more convenient for new parties to participate and come. Uh, it might not be easy to win, but it's easy for them to participate. At least. There's some fairness in that system, that game,
right.
unlike America. Uh, America just seems completely rigged. The two-party system, it seems like a deliberate attempt to keep the system. It has to be a proper revolution. But yeah, that's a discussion for another day. So yeah, the president's elected for 5 years, assembly is for 4 years. That's another thing maybe we didn't know. But
Right.
in South Korea.
Right.
So yeah, what else? What else do we got? Yes. Oh, there's this interesting bit you should see. You might have come across this. We should watch this video. Okay, I think we'll just watch it.
Okay.
And this is a video. It's a small video, like 2 minutes. I'll send you the link now. Hold on. It's shit. Why can't I click on my Discord? Oh, that's your Discord. I don't know. What?
Yeah.
What?
I think it's your Discord. This is my Discord. You're using mine now.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's fine. Sorry. Getting confused. I feel like yeah, I'm technology handicapped. But anyways, I'll get familiar with this one. Okay, so this is, I think it's a 2009 video, 8 video. I don't know if you came across this in your research, but
started as a budget debate.
No.
One person had to be stretchered out of the legislative chamber.
Is the volume off? You want to play the volume too? Play from the beginning.
When lawmakers from one party were blocked from.
Oh wait, I don't know about the copyright and all that. Should we worry about that?
But all too
We
often,
are still in
South
early
Korea's
stages. We'll worry about
politicians have
it.
descended
Yeah, okay. We have more viewers now. Why can't I hear it? Maybe I can't hear it. You can hear it,
Yeah, I
right?
can.
debate.
The viewers will be able to hear it, right?
One person had to be stretchered out of the legislative chamber. On another occasion, when lawmakers from one party were blocked from a room where a
This is
foreign
too funny.
policy bill was
It's hilarious.
being debated, one took an axe to the door. Those inside hit back with a fire extinguisher, provoking the use of a fire hose in reply. And it's been even more extreme. Tear gas was released in the National Assembly to try to stop the passage of a free trade deal with the United States. All this gives South Korean politicians a bad image at home, and many feel they're laughed at abroad too.
South Korean people feel ashamed. Political maturity hasn't happened at the same pace as social maturity. Political development has lagged behind social and economic development.
So the ruling and main opposition parties have agreed to legislation aimed at curbing violence. What's been dubbed the anti-scuffling law aims for more of this sober debate. The law increases penalties for lawmakers who brawl in the chamber.
It also introduces filibusters, the ability to give an extraordinarily long speech to prevent a vote on something controversial, rather than needing to resort to violence to do so. To stop such a speech and vote anyway, it needs the cross-party backing of 60% of the legislators. The idea is to promote compromise and prevent
How is Al Jazeera's
confrontation.
video, like,
The
the
new
video
law shouldn't
quality
be
so
needed,
bad?
of course. Fighting politics.
Is it bad? I don't know. I didn't know.
Vote
Yeah, it's
age, but it doesn't always
I
work
didn't
out
realize.
that way.
Oh yeah, it's like less than 480p.
2
No?
weeks
It's
ago, the
480.
lawmaker who let off tear
Oh, okay.
gas was
I mean, is it that? Is there an option there for
No,
720?
I checked.
Andrew Thomas, Al Jazeera. So,
Yeah, it feels worse than 480. But anyways,
Like, I thought maybe somewhere else it was uploaded, but it's Al Jazeera only.
2012 it's old.
Yeah.
I'm worried about the copyrights because I think they have like an automated system where they check the similarities between the volume. Maybe I don't know, but we'll see. When you're editing, maybe you can fix it later. That's
I mean,
okay.
I can remove it, but like the worst thing is it'll like get demonetized, but we have like 0 viewers.
If that's the case, then it's okay. I don't know if the content of the channel gets blacklisted or something. I'm worried about that. But anyways, okay, we'll figure it out. So isn't that funny? I mean, the guy jumping off this level. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was crazy.
I've seen this video. Like I've seen. I didn't know it was like on South Korea and all. I've just seen it in those compilation videos of politicians
Oh,
fighting.
video.
Yeah.
What shit? I never saw it. I came across it when I never heard of this. It was insane.
Right.
So that was since that incident. But the guy took a sledgehammer. He's banging the door. They have a fire extinguisher to shoo them away. Oh my god! It's and you know I mean I used to always think our parliament's so bad, but I guess this is again part of the process.
Yeah, this
And
is. I think Parliament, like I think I've seen it in various countries, like so many other countries, like all these fights.
I might have seen in Sri Lanka. Again, it's sticking to the Asian theme. I have an affinity towards Asian democracies, but maybe that's why. I saw in Sri Lanka it happening, but yeah, I can imagine it happening everywhere. And post this incident, they had a lot of legislative reforms for violence in parliaments and all that. But yeah, I mean, the guy jumping over, trying to beat them up, it had to do with. Damn, I should have remembered this. I actually knew the story. Maybe you can open up the Wikipedia page on it. Violence in Korean assembly. That's probably the words you should search for. Wait, what did I have? I can't remember.
This is again Al Jazeera, Wikipedia, National Assembly.
Violence, legislative violence. Go back. Go back.
This one, jump to.
I hope it is South Korea.
Yeah, legislative violence in South Korea.
2009, yeah. I can't remember what this was about. I knew it at the time. Again, some corruption, obviously some disagreement, but yeah, maybe I should look it up and figure it out later. Either way, there's clearly some disagreements, and the only course of action they thought to resolve it was through a fist fight.
And it seemed like it was something to do with trades with US or something. So.
Oh, is it? It's not even a local issue, huh?
No, but that's what they were saying, right? In the this thing video.
I couldn't hear it.
They said something like that. Maybe I didn't hear it properly.
It's okay, but yeah, it's funny. But politicians fighting, and it's just because they're old people, and they're weak and fragile. It's just I sound like an ageist, but whatever, ageism. But you know what I'm saying. It is funny when you see people who can't fight get into fights. But I sound like I'm describing myself. But anyways, we'll talk about it another time. So what else? So that's. South Korea. So I mean, there's lots to talk about. Their culture. You're watching now this thing, a soap opera of South Korea. I don't know if you want to admit it on the video, but sorry.
It's a guilty pleasure.
Yeah. Let's save your reputation until we have enough viewers. But
still, like Parasite won Oscars, which is pretty huge.
Yeah, of course, no doubt. And I don't know, but they had a reputation for their scary movies, like Japan.
Scary movies, and their like dramas, and like their like general TV is supposed to be pretty good.
Yeah. Their what do you call it? The film industry.
Yeah, the film industry. Yeah.
Old Boy, right? That's the first.
Old Boy.
Korean,
like that's what we know. We know it through.
No, but it's an Oscar-winning movie, right?
I don't think so. Like, I think this was the first. Like, maybe it won like best foreign picture or something, but this one.
No. Correct. Yeah, no foreign movies won the award. Parasite has won, that's for sure. But I think it won some Oscar. Old Boy, I'm not sure again, but I don't know. But yeah, oh god, I was so weirded out by the climax. Yeah, I think in college you guys told me, but no, it was a good movie.
Yeah, it was really good.
The starting is brilliant. I love the beginning. The premise of the movie is it's unique. It's never been done after that. I don't think it has.
And definitely not. Old Boy has any Oscar relations. I mean, not even any kind of this thing.
Nothing on Google. Google's not showing anything. Okay. I don't know why I thought it. No, it's okay. If you think, I just had a feeling it was something. But what else? So there's that, and then there's sports to get at this thing. All things maybe we'll cover over a period of time over the future videos. And sticking to the politics, has been impeachments of their presidents and all that. We don't know details, do we? How the president was impeached? Why? I know one detail. This lady, she was there. What's her name?
She got like arrested or something, right? Like she.
Yeah. Wait, what have you heard? What have you read about him?
Like I was just like reading that like someone
Right.
got
Right. So
yeah,
I'll
because
tell
of
you what I go on.
this was again like corruption related something.
Right, right. I'll tell you what I learned about that impeachment thing. I'm seeing if I have a link. Sadly, I haven't saved the link. But either way, I'll tell you what happened. So she was like all corruption. It has to do with money, right? And she was in a way threatening, using her positions of power and enabling her secretary or an equivalent of her secretary, her side right hand man, left hand man, or woman. It was a she. I forgot her name. To what? To get money, make deals with these companies like Samsung and Hyundai and all that,
Right.
and extorting money from them for their political gains or maybe their private benefits. No, not unclear. And how impeachment happens in South Korea is you need you need 1/3 of the assembly to agree on impeachment. So they need to say, oh, a vote should be conducted. Once 1/3 agree on that, 2/3 have to vote in favor of the impeachment for the president to be impeached.
Right.
Right. So you got what I mean by that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That's what her
Right.
name is, Park Jun Hui or whatever.
Right.
I don't know how to.
Okay. You can pull up the page if there's an article on it or something.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I pulled up the wiki link on.
Oh, I'm not on the shit. I get confused. I should cancel my browser. Wait. Why can't I? Oh, there it is. Oh, this is the wiki link, right? So what happened to her? So that happened, and they voted in favor of impeaching her. So she got impeached, right?
Right.
After impeached, within 180 days, a court has to decide whether the impeachment can hold and whether it has legal validity.
Right. I think
And
similar
that-
thing happened with Trump as well, right? I think.
Right. It might be a similar thing, right? I don't know. Actually, all hearings are public, right? Yeah, similar to what Trump did, because he was, I think, voted to get impeached in one of the houses, and then in I think the other house he won. I'm not sure. I'm not sure of the details, but in South Korea they have only one house. So yeah, that happened, and then the judge. It was a 9-judge bench, and unanimously they decided she had to be impeached, and she was stripped of her presidency. And along with it, everything gets taken away. So your pensions, your medical benefits, your whatever it is, all the facilities you get from being president are stripped away,
Right.
except your security. I think she was left with the security. Again, I think all the information I got from this Wikipedia page. And yeah, so that all right. And then the prime minister becomes the president. That's his face. I couldn't remember his name. Scroll down. Yeah, that's the guy.
Wang Kyo.
Wang. Is he part of? I think he's part of the second most popular, the United Front or whatever. But is he? No, they don't mention his party. Right? South Korean politician now, man. Just no. Right. So he was the prime minister. The prime minister during the election. I think in a year or two he conducted the elections. Was like he's in charge. And then
He's Liberty Korea Party. So.
Right. Yes. And that keeps changing too. These parties keep changing their names.
Oh.
The political. Yeah, they keep changing their name. Sorry?
It doesn't exist in the top groups or whatever, I guess. So
There you go. See? It might be one of these parties, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And the Democratic Party, maybe 4 years or 5 years ago, wasn't called that. They keep changing their names, they keep changing their party, they keep changing their ideologies, they keep changing their election process, they keep changing their number of seats. It's so complex every 4 years, which is, I mean, I sound like I'm saying it in a negative sense, but I think it's a sign of a dynamic, working, functioning democracy.
No, but
And,
it says, in assumed office, president of United Future Party, but United Future Party also doesn't exist. So maybe Future
It's the
Korea,
second.
maybe it's this.
United Future. It's the same. It says United Future.
Oh, it does. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
So
It's second most, yeah.
Right. So yeah, that's why it's so complex and it's difficult to learn. I mean, it's we picked a really complex topic, but we'll figure it out, and I'm sure we'll learn a lot more
Yeah,
in the future.
it probably seemed like in this video we were pretty uneducated, but
Yeah, but I hope they got some insights into what the system works like and what the democracy is, and we'll pick a lot more. South Korea is a fascinating subject, and right. So yeah, we have to cover their social systems, the economics, so many things to cover in the future videos. we'll get to it eventually. And I think for today, we've got enough. I think we've covered everything we've prepared for.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, man. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this.
Yeah, at least hope you guys got some interest through it, towards it at least. So
Yeah, yeah, it's probably not well prepared. We'll get better with time. I promise you that. And yeah, I think that's it, Chintan. You have anything else to say?
no, I think I'm good. It was pretty.
Alright.
The discussion was pretty enjoyable, I thought so.
Good. All right. Fine. Take care, guys. See you soon. See you
Thank
soon.
you. Bye bye.
Bye.